In Module 2, we will be discussing Chapters 3 and 4 on the matter of utilizing and designing web pages with CSS. In the past, much of the visual formatting of web pages was supplied by markup elements, squarely mixing the concepts of logical and physical markup into the mess that is classic HTML. Strict variants of XHTML deprecated the elements and attributes that focused on presentation, providing a clear distinction between the structure provided by markup and the look dictated by a style sheet, written in cascading style sheets, CSS syntax. The distinct division of duties between markup and style can provide numerous production, maintenance, and even performance benefits, making it a far superior presentation solution to markup alone. Cascading style sheets, see the link in your reading folder, offers what web designers have been clamoring for over the years: more control over layout. Interestingly, the excitement about CSS has been quite slow to build. CSS 1 marked its first appearance as a standard in late 1996, and CSS 2 quickly followed in 1998. Early browsers such as Internet Explorer 3 and Netscape 4 supported some of the technology, but CSS has had trouble gaining widespread acceptance. Browser support has been quite inconsistent, and significant bugs, particularly in older versions of Internet Explorer, have made the use of CSS a lesson in frustration. For visual proof of this, consider the CSS2 conformance tests called ACID2. See the link in your reading folder, which exercises many important features of CSS1 and CSS2. Figure 4.1 in your text shows Internet Explorer 6 and Firefox 2 both failing this test. However, with the release of Internet Explorer 8 and Firefox 3, and past conformance of other browsers like Opera and Safari, all the major browsers now pass the ACID2 test. See Figure 4.2 in your text. Considering that the introduction of that test was in 2005, and for many years previous CSS support was spotty, finally we see that CSS is changing for the better. Cascading style sheets is a fairly old technology as far as the web is concerned. The first ideas about CSS were presented as early as 1994, and by December of 1996, the CSS1 specification, see the link in your reading folder, was ratified. This early version of CSS was partially supported in browsers like Internet Explorer 3 and Netscape 4 to varying degrees. While the features of CSS1 were far superior to what presentation HTML had with its font tags and workarounds, uptake was slow. CSS1 provided many features to change borders, margins, backgrounds, colors, and a variety of text characteristics, but the much demanded ability to directly position objects was absent. An interim specification on positioning HTML elements, commonly called CSS-P for short, see the link in your reading folder, was implemented in Netscape 4 and Internet Explorer 4 and later rolled into CSS2, which was released in May 1998. While CSS2 introduced many valuable features, including positioning, media types for style sheets, oral style sheets, and much more, not everything has been implemented even in the most modern browsers. A revision of this specification, CSS 2.1, released in 2007, removed a number of unimplemented features and normalize the specification for a more realistic vision of what browsers actually do. While the future is clearly CSS3, with its multitude of modules for addressing color, device constraints, foreign language rendering, improved printing, and more, it is far from clear when that future will arrive. At the time of this edition's writing, select features of various CSS3 modules have been implemented in some browsers, But, save for a few high-value features like the opacity property, full cross-browser support is still spotty. Table 4-1 in your text summarizes the version history of CSS. We will be going over storyboards, which are a diagram of a website's structure, showing all the pages in the site and indicating how they are linked together. It is important to storyboard your website before you start creating your pages in order to determine which structure works best for the type of information the site contains. A well-designed structure can ensure that users will be able to navigate the site without getting lost or missing important information. Style sheets are clearly the way to go for presentation. You can do so much more with CSS than you ever could with XHTML, such as making text very large, setting backgrounds, carefully controlling the layout of text, pixel-perfect setting the flow of the page elements, and more. CSS provides better control over the look and feel of web pages. Style sheets aren't just useful for making attractive pages. By dividing structure and style, they can make documents simpler to create and easier to manipulate. CSS provides many valuable layout properties that provide a richer palette for design than presentation markup ever could. CSS should not be considered a replacement for markup, however, as it relies greatly on correct XHTML markup as well as proper naming of tags. While developers have found the promise of CSS alluring, the execution of correct style sheets in browsers can be quite challenging. Cross-browser rendering headaches re-emerge with a vengeance under CSS, and we find that the incorrect solutions of hacking around for filtering and selection show the necessity of client-side scripting.